The hum of the airplane filled the cabin like a low lullaby, punctuated by the shuffle of passengers squeezing into narrow seats. Elena Parker adjusted her carry-on bag under the seat in front of her, her body aching with the bone-deep fatigue only single parents knew. She had barely slept the night before. Packing for herself was one thing, packing for a 6-year-old was another. Even though Liam wasn't with her on this trip, she had spent hours writing little notes for his lunchbox, checking and rechecking the numbers of neighbors and babysitters, smoothing away her guilt with lists and routines. Now, at last, she had boarded the red-eye from Boston to San Francisco, a work trip that was supposed to be her chance to breathe. To present her marketing campaign at the West Coast Conference, to prove herself. To remind herself that she was more than just Liam's mom. But as the plane filled, the weight in her chest refused to lighten. Elena slid into her aisle seat, smoothing the wrinkles in her navy blazer. She reached for her worn leather wallet to tuck away the boarding pass, and that's when it happened. A slip of paper, a flutter, a soft whisper against the thin airplane carpet. Her heart lurched. The photo. It was always with her, tucked between credit cards and receipts, so often pulled out during late nights when she missed him. Liam, at 6 years old, grinning with his stuffed dinosaur clutched in his arms, freckles scattered like starlight across his nose. A gap where his front tooth used to be, replaced by endless curiosity and laughter. It had fallen, face up, into the aisle. Elena leaned down instantly, panic rushing through her veins. She couldn't lose it, she couldn't lose him, not even in a photo. But another hand reached first. Large, steady, familiar. Here, you dropped, the man's voice cut off, strangled by recognition. Elena's stomach dropped before her eyes even confirmed it. Alexander Grant. Her heart stumbled. It couldn't be, but it was. The ghost in 14C. He was older now, but not by much. Time had carved sharper lines into his jaw, given his dark hair a sprinkling of steel at the temples. The fitted charcoal suit, the tailored precision of his appearance, he hadn't changed. Or maybe he had, but in ways that only made him seem more untouchable. He was the man she had once loved with the reckless abandon of youth. The man she had lost without ever telling him the truth. The man whose eyes now widened as they locked on hers. Elena. His voice was low, incredulous. Her throat closed. Words scattered like frightened birds. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, always safely in daydreams or nightmares. She never thought it would happen like this, trapped 35,000 feet above the ground, with no escape and no chance to prepare. Alexander's gaze dropped back to the photograph in his hand. His expression shifted, piece by piece, as though his brain were solving a puzzle it didn't want to complete. This is your son. His voice cracked. Elena's lips parted, but no sound emerged. He looks. His jaw clenched. His knuckles whitened around the photo. He looks exactly like me. 6 years ago. The hum of the engines faded under the roar of memories. 6 years earlier, Elena had been in Internet Grant Technologies, too bright-eyed to know better, too ambitious to stop herself. She worked late nights in the marketing department, pouring herself into campaigns that no one expected her to finish. And then there was Alexander. Brilliant, untouchable, the CEO who should have been out of reach but who, inexplicably, noticed her. They shared stolen moments. Coffee in empty boardrooms, laughter after midnight at the office, a kiss that turned into something deeper. It wasn't supposed to last, and it didn't. A misunderstanding, a rumor in the press about him and a European model. A promotion that whisked him away overseas, leaving no time for explanations. She had been too proud, and too heartbroken, to chase him. And then, weeks later, the test. 2 pink lines. By the time she gathered her courage, Alexander was gone, swallowed up by the glittering machine of business and headlines. His name was plastered across magazines beside women who looked nothing like her. She told herself he had moved on. That he didn't need to know. So she made a choice. She would raise Liam alone. It wasn't easy. Some nights, she ate crackers so he could have dinner. Some mornings, she went without sleep to finish work before packing lunches. But it was worth it. Every giggle, every hug, every whispered, "I love you, Mommy," was proof she had chosen right. Until now. The plane, the truth. Alexander stared at her, eyes burning with something between shock and fury. Around them, passengers shuffled bags, buckled seatbelts, chatted about layovers. But for Elena, the world had narrowed to the aisle between seat 14B and 14C. "You were never going to tell me," His voice was rough, low enough that only she could hear, but laced with the kind of betrayal that cut deeper than shouting ever could. Elena's chest constricted. Alex, please, don't. He held the photo like evidence. Don't tell me I'm imagining this. He has my face, my eyes. God, Elena. He dragged a hand through his hair, disbelief etched into every line of him. All this time, the flight attendant's voice crackled overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts. We're preparing for takeoff. The announcement barely registered. Elena gripped the armrest, panic threading through her veins. She wasn't ready. She wasn't ready for this conversation, this confrontation, this unraveling of the life she had so carefully constructed. Alexander leaned back in his seat, but his gaze never left her. His breathing was ragged, as though the cabin had lost all its oxygen. For 6 years, she had built walls of silence, protecting Liam, protecting herself. But with one slip of a photograph, those walls had shattered. Dash dash dash. The weight of secrets. The engines roared as the plane began to taxi. Elena turned toward the window, eyes fixed on the flashing runway lights. She tried to steady her breath, to remind herself she had done what was best. But then she thought of Liam, his questions about why he didn't have a dad like the other kids, the way he accepted her answers without complaint. She thought of Alexander's expression now, torn open by a truth she had kept from him. Her pulse raced. She wasn't the girl she had been 6 years ago. She was a mother now. Every choice she made had been for Liam. But had she made the right one? As the plane lifted off, she closed her eyes. She could feel Alexander's gaze burning into her, heavy with unanswered questions. And in her heart, she knew this flight was about to change everything. Dash dash dash. The cliffhanger. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Passengers relaxed, pulling out laptops and earbuds. Elena gripped her tray table, her knuckles white. Alexander finally spoke again, voice low but cutting. Elena. She forced herself to meet his eyes. You were never going to tell me. Her lips trembled, words hovered, unsaid, as the photo lay between them like a live wire. And just like that, 6 years of silence were over. The words hung between them like turbulence that hadn't yet hit. Elena's throat was dry, her heart slamming against her ribs. Alexander's eyes, those same eyes Liam had inherited, were fixed on her with relentless intensity. You were never going to tell me. He repeated, softer this time, but no less dangerous. Elena opened her mouth, closed it again. How could she explain 6 years in a single breath? She forced herself to steady her voice. I didn't know how. That's not an answer. His hand tightened on the photograph. You don't get to keep a child from his father just because you didn't know how to say it. Anger, guilt, fear, every emotion twisted in her chest. It's not that simple. You were gone, Alex. Halfway across the world. The tabloids had you with a new woman every month. What was I supposed to do? Show up at your office and say, by the way, remember me? Here's your baby. I was protecting him. His face darkened. Protecting him from what? Me? Yes, she snapped before she could stop herself. The single word cracked like a whip, leaving silence in its wake. Dash dash dash. The man he'd become. Alexander leaned back, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. For years she had avoided looking at his face in magazines, skipped past interviews that praised his empire. Now, up close, she saw not just the polished CEO, but the man she had once known, the one who had laughed with her in a break room at 2 a.m., the one who had kissed her like the world might end tomorrow. But he wasn't that man anymore. Or maybe he was, beneath the armor. You think I wouldn't have stepped up? He asked finally, his voice quieter now, more dangerous for its restraint. Elena swallowed hard. I didn't know. I couldn't take that risk. He needed stability, not uncertainty. Alexander's hands gripped the armrests, as though the plane's thin walls were closing in. He needed his father. The seatbelt sign chimed on again as the plane rattled through a patch of turbulence. Elena held onto the armrest, her pulse mirroring the shake of the cabin. But the real turbulence was inside her. Dash dash dash. Names and truths. What's his name? Alexander asked, cutting through the silence. Her eyes snapped to his. The question was a plea and a demand all at once. Liam. Something in Alexander's face cracked. He closed his eyes, the name escaping his lips like a prayer. Liam. When he looked at her again, his eyes were wet, though his voice stayed firm. I want to meet him. Elena's chest tightened. She had dreaded this moment for 6 years, but she'd known it would come eventually. Just not like this. Alex. She shook her head. I don't know if that's a good idea. His gaze sharpened. Not a good idea, he's my son. Her temper flared. He's not a headline, Alex. He's not another deal you can negotiate. He's a little boy with bedtime routines and stuffed animals and questions I don't always know how to answer. I won't let you storm into his life and tear it apart. And I won't let you keep me out of it. The plane jolted again, but neither of them looked away. The air between them was charged, raw, impossible to ignore. The landing. The rest of the flight passed in strained silence. Elena pretended to sleep, though her mind spun with every possible outcome. Alexander stared straight ahead, his hand occasionally brushing the photo like he was grounding himself in proof that Liam existed. When the plane finally touched down in San Francisco, Elena's heart sank. She wanted more time to think, but time had run out. As passengers shuffled off, Alexander stayed close. Too close. At the gate, he caught her arm, not harshly, but firmly enough to make her stop. Elena, he said, his voice low, steady. I lost you once. I won't lose him. We're going to figure this out. Together. Her heart stuttered. Part of her wanted to push him away, to tell him he had no right. Another part, the part that still remembered his laugh, his warmth, his touch, wanted to believe him. But she wasn't just Elena anymore. She was Liam's mom, and every decision she made had to be for him. Hotel confrontation. Elena checked into her hotel, hoping, praying, that Alexander would let her go for the night. But 20 minutes later, a knock rattled her door. She opened it to find him standing there, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up, looking less like the untouchable CEO and more like the man she had once known. We need to talk, he said simply. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, the room felt too small for the storm between them. Alexander paced near the window, his hands restless. Tell me everything, from the beginning. So she did. She told him about the days she found out, the nights she stayed awake planning how to tell him, the magazine covers that convinced her she'd already lost her chance. She told him about Liam's first steps, his love for dinosaurs, his fear of thunderstorms. She told him everything except how many nights she had cried herself to sleep wishing Alexander had been there. By the time she finished, her throat was raw. Alexander was silent for a long moment. Then, softly, he asked, Does he ever ask about me? Her chest tightened. Sometimes. I tell him his father is busy. Important. That doesn't mean he's not loved. Alexander's face crumpled, the weight of 6 years settling on his shoulders. God, Elena, I missed everything. A father's vow. He turned to her then, eyes blazing with determination. But I won't miss anything else. I want to meet him. Tomorrow. I don't care what it takes. I'm not going to be some stranger in his life. Elena shook her head, panic rising. It's not that simple. He doesn't know you. You can't just appear and expect him to. I'll take it slow, Alexander interrupted. I'll do whatever it takes. But I need to see him. Please. The please broke her. For 6 years, she had imagined Alexander finding out and demanding custody, threatening her carefully built life. She hadn't expected this. A man desperate not to take Liam away, but to be allowed in. Tears blurred her vision. I don't know if I can trust you, she whispered. His voice softened. Then trust him. Trust Liam to decide if he wants me in his life. I'll prove myself, to both of you. Unraveled walls. The silence stretched, heavy but not hostile. Alexander stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his eyes, the small scar near his temple she had once kissed. Elena, he said, his voice low, steady. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm begging you, don't shut me out of his life. Not again. Her breath caught. Memories rushed back. Laughter in dark hallways, whispered promises, the way he once made her feel like the only woman in the world. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to cling to the anger, it was safer. But standing here, she couldn't deny the truth. She had never stopped loving him. And that terrified her more than anything. The decision. That night, Elena barely slept. She stared at the ceiling, torn between fear and hope. She had built a world where she and Liam were enough. Opening that world to Alexander meant risking everything. But hadn't Liam deserved this all along? A father who looked at his photo like it was the most precious thing in the world. By morning, she had made a choice. The meeting. When Alexander arrived at the park the next afternoon, Alina's heart pounded so hard she thought it might break her ribs. Liam was on the swings, laughing as he pumped his small legs. Alexander stopped short at the sight, his breath catching. For a moment, he looked utterly undone. Elena touched his arm. Slow, gentle, let him come to you. He nodded, swallowing hard, and knelt down on the grass as Liam jumped from the swing and ran toward them. Mommy. Liam grinned, barreling into her arms. Then he noticed Alexander. Who's that? Elena hesitated, her throat tight. But before she could answer, Alexander spoke, his voice trembling but steady. Hi, Liam, my name is Alex. I'm someone very important who's wanted to meet you for a long time. Liam tilted his head, studying him with the open curiosity only children possessed. Do you like dinosaurs? Alexander's lips curved into a shaky smile. I love dinosaurs. And just like that, a new chapter began. Epilogue of Part 2. As Elena watched them, Liam chattering about T-Rexes, Alexander listening like each word was gold, she felt her walls begin to crumble. The past couldn't be undone. The years couldn't be rewritten. But maybe the future didn't have to be built on secrets anymore. For the first time in 6 years, she let herself hope. Hope that Liam would grow up knowing both of them. Hope that she and Alexander might find their way back, not to what they were, but to something new. Hope that love, no matter how lost, could still be found again.